Hi.
Okay, wait a moment. I spotlight two of us. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining this discussion on a heart advice by Namgyal Dawa Rinpoche. You might not know, but I'm doing like a heart advice project since almost, more than 20 years actually, which means like I'm asking masters of different traditions to give their heart advice. Usually I ask like, please do it in 5 minutes, and because we know our attention span and business, and say what is most important for you, It doesn't have to be scholastic, but what really is like, what is really the heart of your life, What is really your advice to Buddhist practitioners? And thanks to Mariana, and I will introduce her soon, but you can already see her. That hard advice happened with Namgyal Dawa Rinpoche in January. So we did it through Zoom. And you will see. It is I find a very juicy advice, especially, for the Sangha. And Rinpoche was born 1974 as a son of Shenpan Dawa Rinpoche and therefore grandson of Duchem Rinpoche and cousin of Tsongtse Khyentse Rinpoche. And he was recognized as a very important teacher of the previous Duchem Rinpoche. He was sent to the Catholic school in Darjeeling and also high school he did in India. And then he also had a proper Buddhist training in Namdroling in Kathmandu. And many of his great teachers you might know, like Chatta Rinpoche, 16th Karmapa, of course, Duchem Rinpoche, Troshik Rinpoche, and so on. And nowadays he's living in New York, but he's traveling a lot and teaching around the world. Yes, and Mariana, who is here, a dear friend of mine, he's the deputy editor of Buddha Dharma, an Lines Raw online source for the Buddhist community. She's a Buddhist since 20 years, has a master degree in religious study, was a monastic, a long-term retreatant, and is helping since then, in many retreat and Dharma centers. She's originally from Colombia, and she lives in North Carolina. And as I said, she was the link to Rinpoche so that we can have this interview with him and that we can share it now. You want to add anything, Mariana, before we start the video?
Thank you so much. Just happy that everyone's here, and as you will hear when Rinpoche talks, his background is very interesting, and I don't know if any of you follow him on social media, but if you do, you will know that he's very based on in the lineage and the tradition, but he also has a very humorous, fun approach that I feel a lot of modern practitioners can appreciate and makes the Dharma more accessible to our times and just kind of gives it a little more like lightheartedness with his humor. And I think this will be very clear in his heart advice. So I'm glad everyone's here.
Thank you. And one more thing. So the video is like 30 minutes long, but it would be nice to have like a lively discussion about the certain topics that Rinpoche is covering. So maybe if you want to start a discussion, maybe raise your virtual hand. And as soon as we have like 3 virtual hands together, then I will pause the video and then we discuss and then we continue the video so that we talk about freshly what Rinpoche just mentioned. And okay, then I will unspotlight us. And let's do this. Mhm, mhm. And please chat with me if the sound is not good or anything.
Yeah, for recording.
Okay.
Okay, so my Vajrayana training began in my mid-40s. When I was 45 years old, I found myself in a position where I never realized I had to take on the responsibility of the mother centers here in the West, because my brother was supposed to take over. However, because of his schedule and because of his commitments, he couldn't. And therefore, I found myself mid-40s starting my Vajrayana training. And for the, the first year, yes, I was in doubt. People were in doubt, and I had a lot of, I was wondering to myself, like, how do I approach this now? Because here I am, starting from scratch. Who's going to listen to me? How am I going to be of any service to my lineage? How do I hold on to the lineage? How do I make sure the lineage flourishes? So first year I tried to do everything the traditional way of doing things, what was expected of me. But by the second year, I realized I have to be authentic to myself. I have to be authentic to the people, you know. I cannot approach this Dharma pretending that I'm a great realized teacher. Although people have a lot of devotion to me, I do not consider myself as being a realized person. I feel that I am just like anybody else who's on this path, who's learning, discovering things, and certain aspects is of course profoundly changing, life changing, and these kind of realizations and aspects really has helped me. And so I share the Dharma based on my own personal experience, rather than teaching from the sutra, which I cannot, which I still will not, because people say, can you teach me Dzogchen, and I'm like, what the hell is Dzogchen? Even I don't know what the hell is Dzogchen. How can I teach something I don't know? But if you are saying Dzogchen equates to loving everybody, let's say, because people always say Dzogchen, Dzogchen, and this is what I always get asked for majority of the time is about the Dzogchen teachings. And for me, I realized that people have not really grasped, at least from my experience, is that we as Vajrayana practitioners from this past 5 years that I've been in it, I've realized that we have really neglected the foundation of the essence of what the Dharma is about. Firstly, I really feel from my own opinion, my own experience, from my own side, we really lack the courage to face the truth, which is our own truth. We live in denial. We live in ignorance. I always say, when you look at the mirror, if you want to be a Vajrayana practitioner, truly be a Vajrayana practitioner, then when you look at the mirror, let the reflection of truth be reflected back at you. See your own faults being reflected back at you. Don't pretend to be something that you're not. We're always talking about relative and absolute, and so many people come from the point of absolute, but I call bullshit on that 99.99% of the time, because you are not only misleading the people with what you're saying, but you're also misleading yourself. And if that reflection of truth is not reflected back at you, if you look at the mirror and you go, oh, I have nothing to work for because I'm perfect, I'm free of faults, then the Dharma will be of no benefit to you, no matter how much accumulations you accumulate, no matter how many retreats you go into, days, years. For me, it makes no sense. So first and foremost, if you want my heart advice, is have the courage to face the truth. Let the truth be reflected back at you. My second most important advice I would give everybody.
You're mute.
That's true. Okay. Do you want to discuss anything on this first point?
Nothing more to say.
What do you think? Why don't we do it? Or do we do it?
I think that it's that we are so conditioned. I can only speak for myself because I grew up in America, although I live in England now. But the conditioning, in my experience, is always reach for the so-called highest or the top level of whatever it is you're going after. And us Buddhists fall into the trap, and we don't even notice the conditioned part of it. We just go, well, oh, Dzogchen, Mahamudra, and we go, well, oh, that's what I want. And I'm a Buddhist and I can aspire for that. We get completely confused And I've met many people over the years who go, oh, that Four Noble Truths stuff. Oh, I've learned that long ago. I don't need any of that. Atto Rinpoche used to say, with everything he did, throughout his life, and when all the years he taught here in the UK, and all his teachings were Four Noble Truths, Noble Eightfold Path. And he wouldn't teach any of the other, even though people would ask questions about Dzogchen, because he said, well, just like Namgyal Dawa was saying, what's this about? Why are you asking this? You're forgetting not only fundamentals, but it's kind of the whole, Atto Rinpoche would say, it's the whole path is in those fundamentals.
Thank you.
I remember Rinpoche, Zonzo Khyentse Rinpoche saying something in Bir in a public teaching that good teacher wouldn't show the disciples where the diamond is, but only describe the area around, like the river and a cow, and like there's a house and there's some certain flowers. And then the disciple goes there, and if he is ready, he will discover that it's the diamond himself, and this gives him the confidence to practice. So I think the fundament that's why a good teacher would teach you the foundations, no, so that you find the other thing on your own.
Okay. When did he say that? Do you remember?
He said it after the Ninti Gyapshi empowerments in
Okay,
Bir,
last year.
in the teachings there.
Okay, nice. Thank you. Okay, anybody else wants to share something?
But I think I also appreciated that, he brings it back to like ourselves, like, like our own faults, like our own experience, our own efforts. That is not, out there somewhere or like, looking at someone else's faults, but like really just kind of always bringing it back. Because sometimes we forget, we just kind of, in sanghas, we start to like compare and judge and look at others and criticize, and we forget to, look at ourselves and look at our own, journey and our own path. And so I feel like that's also very important, just to like always look back and just, look at our own path and our own selves and what we can do to be better.
Yeah, it reminded me totally of Atisha, no? Didn't he say like we should use the Dharma as a mirror, to see our own faults and our own situation, and not as a window, to look at others and judge them for not being dharmic, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is actually what brought me to Buddhism, that idea of like, okay, I'm responsible, I have to work on myself, Yeah. Kristen? Kristen?
I think one of the problems, and I feel because I was born in the West and conditioned so much by the West, and actually when I was really little, I was very Buddhist. I was self-effacing, quiet, shy, could hardly say anything, wasn't competitive. And I remember my family beating it into me, I will never survive in America and succeed if I don't get competitive, if I don't become number one. And it was driven into me so much because I'm first generation Asian. And I think with the West, we are so trained and conditioned for a university approach to any form of education that we don't really look at ourselves because we just look at performance. And I think the Dharma has become very university based. But I do think it's a self-correcting path that eventually we come to the truth of where we're really at. And I know many of the lamas are trying to turn people around to, you have to be a good person first, a kind person. And I think with all of the structure of this university approach and all this information and the inborn competitiveness and ego, it's so difficult to transcend that in the Dharma, and everybody has to earn a living. So everything gets very, very money, status, making a living. And so we're back into the trap of samsara. And it's very, very difficult to overcome that because as a Sangha, we might personally, privately look at ourselves and feel where we're really at. But once we're with others, it's so difficult not to become superficial and just go for where we are at on a conceptual, superficial level, relating to the rest of the Western world in our society that promotes everything which is actually anti-dharmic. I think it's very hard to transcend this living in the West. That's why I go to India and Nepal all the time. It is so hard. And when I first met the lamas, what I loved about them was their non-judgment, their kindness. They were so relaxed and natural. They didn't ask you, how much do you have in your bank account? Or what are your degrees? And yet I feel like the Dharma is really moving very clubby, very cliquish, very everything that's the organizations, because they have to survive. The Dharma has to survive. Things are getting so expensive. You have to kind of be a billionaire, I think, to follow the Dharma with the plane fares, the retreats. So I think it's really, really a struggle to remain very, very authentic and sincere and go within and really look at oneself. Because once we're with other people, our ego immediately seems to take over. People seem to get cold. People seem to get selfish, absorbed. They don't want to share. They don't want to give you a ride. They don't want to give you hardly everybody just is shut down, and let's take care of oneself, etc. And maybe my opinion is not what everybody else thinks, but I've been doing the Dharma 24/7 since 2005 and met all the gurus in 1994. I did not start until I was 40 years old, but this is the impression I get. And I think everybody is trying, but I think our society makes it so difficult to transcend that, especially now. Now people are so fearful of their lives and how they're going to survive. I think the Dharma has gotten more constrictive. People are more frightened and more concerned about the livelihood. I was shocked last year when I told a lot of people in New York that the Dalai Lama was in New York City, June 23rd. I went to see him. My girlfriend's wealthy. She got the hotel room. So we got to see him personally and greet him with the high
Excuse me.
gurus and
Excuse me.
lamas.
Excuse me. I would like to listen to Rinpoche now, if it's possible.
Sorry.
It would be very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe, but thank you for sharing. And I think some points will come also in Rinpoche's heart advice. Yeah, but thank you for sharing, and thank you also, Maya. Let's continue. So that was the first point, and let's go to the second.
Have the courage to face the truth.
Okay.
Let the truth be reflected back at you. My second most important advice I would give everybody is, we always talk about Dzogchen, but how about we talk about just two aspects of what bodhicitta means, at least to me. First is love, the cultivation of love. This love or this affection must not be just shared or given to people that you pick and choose. It doesn't matter who you meet, whether you meet them for 5 seconds, whether you've known them all your life, whether you know them for a few years, even to strangers as well, even to those that do not align with your views, even to those that are injurious to you. That affection must be shared equally, or you must embrace everybody with that affection that you have for somebody that you love, as well as for strangers, as well as for everybody that you meet. I can tell somebody, go into retreat 3 years. If they have devotion to the lineage, they will do it. I can tell somebody, do an accumulation of 1,000,000 mantras for your benefit. If they have devotion and trust and confidence in me, they will do it. But if I say, love everybody, impossible. What's a higher form of Dzogchen than cultivating that motivation and aspiration? Not to say that we'll be able to love everyone, but that motivation and that aspiration is what is lacking in our Vajrayana, at least from my experience with the people that I have met. People aim for Dzogchen, but what's a higher Dzogchen than cultivating that motivation? You cannot get over your ex-girlfriend. You cannot get over your ex-husband. You cannot get over this. You cannot get over that. You cannot get along with your in-laws. And yet we, as Vajrayana practitioners, we love to say, for the benefit of all sentient beings, I'm doing my practice. Or Rinpoche, I want to gain realization for the benefit of all sentient beings. And I say, I call bullshit on that. Excuse my language, but, bullshit, because we cannot get over our exes or our in-laws or those who've been injurious to us, and yet we want to receive the highest form of Dzogchen teachings. So from my own humble point of view, I think in this, at least during my time with the people that I have encountered and the Vajrayana practitioners, is that I feel sad that we are missing the essential point of what the Dharma is all about. So cultivate love, not just the ordinary love, but the supreme love, this affection. Cultivate this love where your heart is open to everybody, irrespective of who they are, what choices they have made, no matter whether they align with the views or not. You just love them. Or you have the motivation and the aspiration as a Vajrayana practitioner to love all. It doesn't matter. This is important. But sometimes love in itself can also cause obstacles, because we can overlove people and then choke them. So the cultivation for me, for compassion, is very important. For me, compassion is equated to realization, to wisdom. Because when we have compassion, we have the realization and the empathy that everybody, irrespective of who they are, is also going through pain. So my advice would be cultivate compassion, but do it in a different way. Whoever you meet, because one thing we have to understand is that every one of us, each and every one of us, we have an expiration date. It doesn't matter. We are going to be separated from the things that we love. We are going to face obstacles. There's going to be pain. There's nobody that's exempt from that, even including Rinpoches and Khenpos, no matter outwardly how it looks. Even we are susceptible to this pain, this separation. Because I've lost so many family members, so I have a different view on this. So sometimes they say, oh, Rinpoches can cut through or are able to overcome. No, we do not overcome. The pain stays with us. It doesn't matter. Time to time, things may seem amazingly joyful, but yet at the same time, this pain always remains within us. So I always advise people, see your pain in everyone that you meet. It doesn't matter who they are. Why I say that is because as human beings, we are so selfish. Even as Vajrayana practitioners, we're very selfish. So there cannot be a higher pain than our own pain. A person can come to you and his legs, he's lost his legs, he's lost his hands, and you are fully intact, and you are blessed, and instead of cultivating gratitude, nevertheless our pain will still be worse than that person's pain because of our selfishness. So use that as a form of transforming this into wisdom. So use your pain, see as a transformative method, because no matter what obstacles we face in life, or whatever joy, happiness, or pain, everything can be transformed. You can transform it into wisdom. So see your pain in others. When you go through a pain, and then you go, oh, how I feel at this moment is it's not good. I cannot handle this. This is too much of a burden for me to go through this. Definitely, yes, understandable. But when you say, what I realize is, what I feel, the pain that I'm going through, the burden that I bear, I'm going to make a commitment that I don't cause this to another human being. You've just transformed this pain into wisdom. You've just had a realization, So cultivate supreme love, cultivate supreme compassion. This is important. Have the courage to face your own limitations, your own faults. This is important. If you do not have the courage to face that, this Dharma path, no matter what you do, is not going to be of benefit. Forget benefit to sentient beings. It's impossible. it's not going to be of benefit to you in a way that you expect to be benefited from it. Third and the final advice I really would give every.
Okay, that was the second advice. Shall we discuss on that? The thing is about, I always think, like, yeah, love, bodhicitta, compassion, it's so easy to understand, like the teachings on it, so sometimes it's like skipped too much, not really like looked into, because it is, yeah, it is easy to understand intellectually, but it's so difficult, at least for me, or so, yeah, so difficult or challenging to really practice it, for everyone, without excluding. And yeah, it is important in Buddhism, like it's the heart of every practice we do, no matter if low or high. Okay, dears, anything you want to discuss? Are you able to love everybody? And if not, why not?
Arne, I'd like to share a little bit.
Sure, I can't see you. Where are you?
Oh,
Not seeable, no? Oh, Rashmi, yes.
hi.
Sounded so familiar, yes.
So I had a thought while this was all running, and everything that everyone is sharing, I feel like I relate to. I think that for compassion, a lot of it that I notice is very performative, where everyone's like, "Oh, I rejoice in your happiness," and it's all like spoken. But when you actually meet with them, I can see, there's a lot of derision, there's a lot of judging, there's a lot of unkind, you know, things, because true compassion is very hard. I can't achieve it. I find it very hard to like somebody who is being hurtful to me, for instance. um and I think the main point is to understand that everything that you see, and even my version of you, Arne, is just a projection of my mind. It's not the real truth, you know and if you have that, and if you try and remember that with every interaction that you have, that okay, I'm not really looking at Arne as, and what he's saying to me as kindness. It's my own projection. Then I think that you can start to have a little bit of real compassion.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, thank you. And do we have the courage to really see the other person?
I hope no one minds that I say something again. This idea of the courage to see the other person, my experience is that when I perceive that I have been harmed by someone's words or aggression or whatever, I then lose the sense of objectivity. And then it's the only story that I have in my mind is the incident where they said this and I felt that. But recently, when I've heard about people I know who have done very, things that the people perceive as really awful things, awful behaviors, but it wasn't towards me, but I hear about it, I feel so much compassion for the people who did the horrible things because I know them. And that's a really weird one. They didn't do it to me, so I just feel this compassion for these people. But as soon as it's to me, the compassion is just sort of, it's not that I go, okay, compassion, I'm going to put you on the shelf. It's literally, it's forgotten until I have to, hook it back in and, remember.
Thank you. Yeah, I think remembering it. Yeah. Anybody else? Anything? Okay. I just have to, I think I skipped a little bit in the video. Wait, I just have to find it.
So for me,
Okay, it's coming. Sorry. Okay.
our effort. So for me, the third advice and the main advice I would give is no matter what it is, no matter what you do in your Dharma practice, no matter what lineage you follow, no matter what practices you do, understand that whatever you do is you're doing for your own self-transformation. We are not here to expect others to conform to how we expect them to be. Then that's the wrong view. And that's why conflict arises even in the Sangha, is because we expect, oh, she should behave in this way, she should be doing this practice, oh, she is like this, or he's like that. And then conflict arises because instead of understanding that the main essence of the Dharma is self-transformation, we are projecting our expectations on others to transform. So I don't know how to say this because I'm so used to putting this in a way. I say, like, if you're going to a Dharma center, and I've said this so many times, and you think somebody is a bitch, let them be a bitch. You're not there to unbitch them. That's not your job. You're there to unbitch yourself. Just because you think they're a bitch, that means you are a bitch. So you have to think of it in that way. If you're going to a Dharma center and you encounter who you think somebody is a bastard, let them be a bastard. As a Vajrayana practitioner, we should pray, let him be a happy bastard. Let her be a happy bitch. We are not here to unbitch them or unbastard them. That's not our job description. We go into the Dharma center, we go into our practices, we go and gather and do all of these, whatever it is, retreats and accumulations and practices with one main intention. That is, we want to transform ourselves. So if everybody had that kind of understanding and realization, as whatever that we do in as far as this Dharma path is concerned is that I want to work on my own self-transformation, then can you imagine collectively if everybody, at least 80% of the Sangha, thought in the same manner, if their attitude was like this, I am here for self-transformation, I'm not here to transform anybody, then collectively all the conflicts will dissolve. At least the major conflicts that we have will dissolve. All of these Dharma conflicts that we see going on at this very present moment, even as I speak, I don't have to address what's happening. You all are aware of what's going on. All of this, it will, at least there will be a solution. There will be it will be on the path of resolving itself. When we think like that, then we can come together and say, let's pray for world peace. When we are able to say, okay, we are able to resolve the conflict within our own Sangha, now let's get together and pray for world peace. But the irony is, as I said before, is that we are always talking about world peace, but we are never talking about the peace within our own Sangha, with our Vajra brothers and sisters. So my heart advice are these three things: work on self-transformation, cultivate supreme love, cultivate, supreme compassion, and also cultivate the courage to have the aspiration and the motivation to face your own truth. This is very important. And wherever I've gone, this has always been my core message. I've repeated this so many times. And what really hurts me more than anything is to see divisions in lineages. So, including my own, including in divisions and other lineages as well. And I feel one of the main reasons is because not that I'm again, as I said, not because I'm a realized person or being, but because this is the truth of what I see, at least from my experience. I always advise everybody that I meet, even to both of you as you're listening to what I'm saying at this moment, whatever I say, whatever you hear in the Dharma, don't cement any view. Everything is an advice. You know, the issue we have is when we start cementing views, concepts, and things like that, and then we're resistant to change. And we, as human beings, constantly we are in a cycle of change. It doesn't matter what you liked, how you dressed, even as a teenager. You're not going to wear the same clothes now. You'll find it ridiculous if you wear the same clothes, isn't it? Same thing as in the Dharma. Don't cement your views. Everything that you read, everything that you hear, let it be in a form of advice. And then choose the advice that works for you. You can reject the advice that doesn't work, because we are all different. You know, we've all grown up in different circumstances, causes and conditions, and therefore, you know, we don't have the same taste. It doesn't matter. You know, you may like broccoli. I puke when I think of broccoli. Not to say it's not healthy, but you know, does that mean the broccoli is bad? No, it isn't. It just means that we approach things differently. So if you say, oh, the broccoli is very healthy, somebody could still be allergic to broccoli. Then when we adopt that view, oh, broccoli is healthy because I'm eating it, I have derived so much benefit from this broccoli, my skin is glowing, I'm looking younger and younger. But if somebody who's allergic to that broccoli, you force them to eat that broccoli, they will get into an epileptic, it's a shock, and they'll die from it. So it doesn't work. Even the Dharma should be approached like that, because what works for you doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for everybody. You know, so do not ever force your you know Dharma path on others, or point out what they're doing is right or wrong. This is not for anybody to point out. It's between the practitioner and their teacher. This is important. And
Okay, maybe on this a little bit. So I think he mentioned like two main points, right? This world peace thing, you know, that, yeah, of course, we ideally want it, but can we even manage to have peace in the Sangha? And even if we want that, can we manage to have peace in ourselves? You know, so and then the second thing, yeah, maybe this one, and the second, yeah, that we should. The second thing I think is the best Rime advice. You know, like if we are not cementing our views, you know, we are not getting too dogmatic about it, you know, and we just take the teachings as advices, you know, and not institutionalize them, you know, or think they're absolutely the best, you know, because, yeah, with the broccoli example, what is good for me is maybe not good for you, and other way around. What do you think?
I'm crossing borders. Maybe I get interrupted, but I'm just want to drop something here. I was thinking of Sam Berchholz. He once said about meeting Dujam Rinpoche, the grandfather, that one of the most striking qualities of him, and also like other big amazing beings like Chogyam Trungpa, was that their total acceptance of any human being they encountered, total acceptance, like a, and I think this total acceptance is something one can emulate, but I think I think I have first to start with myself, because if I have not this total acceptance of whatever I encounter with myself, I cannot accept the others, be it Sangha or be it another nation or be it my neighbor or whoever, you know? So I think this is some, and I totally get what he's saying, that this starts with each of us individually. So we have different approaches, broccoli or cheese or whatever. So to get there, to this total acceptance in ourselves and then to others.
When you say total acceptance of myself, what I am at the moment, or what did you mean? I'm not sure if I got that.
Oh, was I breaking up?
Yeah, for me a little bit, but maybe it was only
Yeah,
me.
it's because I'm crossing borders. I'm going. The train is going, and so it's
Nice.
the internet is. No, what I'm saying is like there is like this fundamental. I remember this quote of total acceptance of the lamas, like Dujum Rinpoche, totally accepting, like embracing whoever was with him, you know, like
Okay, yeah,
not.
yeah.
And this total acceptance is like the highest goal, and I think that's what also leads to this world peace, or the peace of the sangha, or the inner peace. You know, that's the openness, and not the choice, or the judgment. Well, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, got it now. Thank you. Thank you.
I think to follow up
I
on
want to
Roma,
say something. Oh, sorry.
I just say something really short. Yeah, like Rinpoche, I saw him shortly after we had this meeting with him. And there's like in every sangha, there's stuff going on, and there's issues going on in the sangha, and so a lot of people were reaching out to him for advice, and to see what they could do or how to deal with situations, and the sense of like him being just so open and embracing, but at the same time reminding everyone that not to speak badly of others, like whatever is happening, kind of like turn it back, see how you can deal with it, see how what your role in it is. But this, like what Arne was saying too, this like remade kind of perspective of, like all the traditions are different and all the teachings are different, and we can each find what works for us. And so he was really kind of adamant in like not speaking badly about other teachers, other traditions, whatever the issue was, and just kind of turning it around and just like focusing on our path and finding the thing that works for us. If a teacher, something happened with a teacher and that didn't work for you, then just kind of taking that self-responsibility and finding something that works for you, and not focusing on speaking badly or judging that other teacher or lineage or whatever it is. So I found that very helpful when I talked to him.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because then it's not getting my tradition, but just, yeah, I mean, Songtse Khenchen, which is often also saying, he thinks also like this categorization of Nyingma, Kachu, Sakya, Gelug might not work, or it's not so relevant for us in the West, but just choose, masters that you are inspired by, and their instructions, and follow them. It doesn't matter if it's like Virupa from the Sakya and then Guru Rinpoche from the Nyingma, just whatever, whoever you feel connected to and what works for you. Yeah. Mala, you wanted to say something, right?
Yes. Whoa, it's quite interesting. Yeah, when the finger is pointed at you or me, like directly, and I'm not a Rinpoche, I'm not an enlightened being, I'm certainly just a, aspiring practitioner. I'm a human being. So therefore, the best thing to do if someone's pointing the finger pretty aggressively at this being is to step out of the way. Yes, we have to kind of find the resilience to be able to accept the other being. But we have to still be able to accept our own vulnerability. And then somehow find the resilience. I mean, it's very, very educational. I'm sorry. Sorry, I've just been put in this position myself, so that's why I'm talking about it. So live experience, I've had to really find a way to accept what someone's saying, and it may be true, may not be true, but in the end, it's like not to create more issues by getting in the way of this being that may be throwing something at me. You know what I mean? Like I might be criticized for being a right bastard or a shite. So if I'm criticized for being a bastard or a shite, fine. I have to take it on. I have to accept that this is the truth of that being. I can do that. But at the same time, I cannot communicate with that being at that point in time. I don't have the resilience or the capacity because it's like, it's head on. Anyhow, I just leave that there because we've all been in those situations, I'm sure.
Yeah, but But what you said makes me think, yeah, I think we should, of course, always be gentle with ourselves, right? And not force ourselves into difficult situations. But then, yeah, the amount of, what is it, resilience you said, like might also vary, from day to day or situation, person to person. So, but yeah, if it's becoming more torture to be in the situation, of course, it's totally fine to step back, step out of it, and regain mental health again, and stability, and then maybe address it later. But maybe sometimes we are able to stay in it, but yeah, my point is, yeah, of course, we never need to force ourselves, but of course, maybe gently expand our horizon, but gently.
Yeah, I mean, I think aspiring to be there for the others is the most important thing, to just keep aspiring.
Yes.
That's what I have to do because
Yes.
I'm not always good at it.
Yeah. And yeah, and not, yeah, fine. Thank you, yeah. Okay, somebody's writing. I can't even read the name because it's in Chinese. Change to the center, back to ourselves from problem. Yeah, I'm not sure if I understand, but a little bit. Usually the advice is, yeah, if there's like a problem outside, that we are not going into that narrative or story too much, but more look into us, our reaction to it, and our take on of it, and then yeah, work on us, our view, perception, reaction to it, and definitely not trying to that the change is out there, and in the other person, but first trying in ourselves. Okay, shall we continue?
Teacher, this is important. And although this is my hard advice, another issue I really have is do not talk as though you have understood what the absolute truth is. This is something you must never do, because I see so many people saying everything is an illusion. It's just, I've always said, if everything is an illusion for you, especially to those who talk in this way, if you're renouncing that relative experience by saying this is the absolute, therefore the relative doesn't matter, I always tell people, send me your money, I'll use it. You don't need it. It's an illusion. Send me the dollars. I'll send you my bank number, bank account, routing number. So you can PayPal me, write me a check. Let me be in this illusion. I don't mind. I'm enjoying it, So don't do that because you hurt people. So this has been wherever I've gone, I've always approached the Dharma in this way, as authentically as I possibly can. Sometimes I tried being traditionally what was expected of me. I tried that method, but for me, I felt that I was not being genuinely honest with the people. This is important. So I approach the Dharma differently. Sometimes people can connect. Sometimes people may not be able to connect with my way that I present the Dharma, but I present the Dharma based just on my experience. Even whoever I ask, no matter who it is, if I ask somebody to do something, it's only because I've done it myself. This is how I approach the Dharma. I also believe this is very important. If I have done it myself, then I'll ask people to do it. If I haven't done it myself, I won't ask people. Even when I tell people, please clean the bathroom, this is a temple, it's because also for 20 years I've cleaned the bathrooms, even the public bathrooms here at our centers. It's because I've done it myself. So for me now, because now I've hit the big 50, that's why I get the AARP, these emails from them. Then you've entered that club. I have to be. This is why I always say to people, I say, have the courage, because I also am, I'm also cultivating the courage to face my situation, in a sense that I know my limitations. You know, I cannot sit there and give a Dzogchen, elaborate Dzogchen teachings where people are going to be like, oh, wow, that was the most fantastic thing that I've heard. Even if I were to do that, read the books and, you know, and actually, the fact is, I can sit up there and just say, close your eyes and now repeat after me, chant 3 lines. And I said, that's the 5th Dzogchen instruction. 99% people will believe it. I give you, I'm telling you. I know it because I've seen this happen so many times from so many, you know, so-called teachers. People will believe it. I can say, come, let me give you a secret instruction. Let me give you, come. And then I call them here. I said, close your eyes. And I just touch their forehead. And I said, I've just transferred my wisdom into you. People will believe it. You know? But for me, it's imperative, important that we do not present the Dharma in that way. Not for name, not for fame, not for financial gains like that. Because ultimately, even all of us, even us Tukos, Rinpoches, we are not exempt, or we don't have a get out of jail free card for karma when we take our last breath, you know. So that is one thing. The last important thing I would really mention is,
Okay, before we come to the last one, anything you wanted to discuss regarding the previous?
Yes. So there was something resonating with me, because not saying something what we have learned and putting, like his example now, everything is impermanent. But this is a tricky thing, you know, it happens so easily, because when you are listening to a teaching, you have that in mind all the time, the things, you know, and then you just blabber it out, and it's maybe not a bad intention or something what you want to put you up. It's just coming because your mind is filled with stuff like that, if I can say it in this way. I don't know, it's maybe just happening, and that's why it is so tricky, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it reminds me of his first advice, and what I said is also sounds like a teaser, you know, that we don't use the Dharma as a window, you know, to use the Dharma understanding to diagnose others, you know, and judge them, or give them like jargon kind of advice, but we use it as a mirror to really practice and apply to ourselves. Yeah, so likewise, for example, in your example with impermanent, yeah, if somebody's relative dies, you know, and is crying, you know, and then I just come there and say, oh, why do you cry? Of course, everything is impermanent. That would be sort of, yeah, it's true that it would be very cynical and more like this window thing, you know, and not really useful at all, you know. But yeah, if I'm suffering because something bad has happened to me, or some good thing that I had is broken or lost, you know, then I can maybe gently remind myself, you know, that things are impermanent. And then yeah, it's good if it's in the forefront of our mind, you know, that we really, as you said, you know, because we heard it so often, then it's good if it's really there, you know, that we applied to ourselves, you know. But I think, yeah, if we just use it like cynically to other people's suffering, there, I guess his other advice of love and compassion is maybe more how we should relate to their suffering. Yeah. What do you think?
Can I add a little reflection?
Sure, sure, Veronica.
This last advice reminds me of something I've heard Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche say in maybe several teachings, where he says that in the West we seem to have a tendency to be too strongly, what can I say, seduced by the idea of the ultimate truth.
and we underestimate the relative truth. I don't know
Yes.
what you have
Yeah.
some things to say about that, Anna, but it seems to me that maybe we have, I mean, I can feel it for myself. There is a kind of romanticizing the ultimate truth, and maybe we have a Western tendency to see that as a kind of a heaven or something kind of easy way out. I don't know, but I would love to hear you, Anna, if you have some reflections on that. It made me think of that.
Yeah, this is a big topic, yeah, and yeah, Rinpoche was definitely touching it, and I mean Namgyal Dawa Rinpoche today, and yeah, Tsongtse Khyentse Rinpoche, I heard him often talk about it, and he's also saying the term relative might also be a little bit unfortunate or not helpful, because we immediately think, oh, the absolute is the good one, you know, and relative is the one to discard. And we forget that they actually have never been divorced, you know, like form is emptiness, emptiness is form, relative truth is absolute truth is relative truth. That's the truth, so that they are not separable. But yes, didactically, pedagogically, Buddha has taught them as being two different things, you know, or realms. And also Rinpoche and other masters, they emphasize that we should really check, you know, are we leaning towards one truth too much, you know? In Rinpoche's, like Namgyal Dawa Rinpoche's example, you know, if we think the absolute is the only thing, you know, and then, yeah, we what is it, neglect the relative, you know? We become too careless in a negative way, you know? We don't care. We think, oh, it doesn't matter, you know, if your father died or not, you know. That's what we think, you know. And so we think, oh, it doesn't matter if I kill somebody or if I rob the bank, you know. We become too nihilistic, and we lose the relative and the beauty of it and the appearance and the ethic, you know. And then, yeah, we have to, if we perceive that tendency, we have to come back to the relative, you know, and think, oh, yes, on the absolute level, yes, nothing is really important, but on the relative, everything matters, you know, everything is important, you know, and then we have to go there, you know, and emphasize that, you know. Yes, even though the other person is empty, his or her suffering is empty, and so on, you know, but still that person is suffering, you know, and wants to be hugged and not stabbed, you know, something, you know. And but then if we go too much to the relative side, you know, and everything becomes too solid and tight and dogmatic even, you know, yeah, we have to be good, you know, we have to be vegetarian, or we have to, you know, then if it becomes too tense, you know, and I think Rinpoche said once, like constipated, you know, then we have to come back to the absolute, you know, and give more space and relax and openness, you know. So basically, we have to, it's advised to have this constant awareness, you know, and see in which extreme we are drifting towards, and then remind ourselves to bringing the other, you know, in order to be in the middle. And I guess Guru Rinpoche's advice, you know, like the view as vast as the sky, and then the actions as fine as barley flour, you know, I think is encapsulating it quite well, you know, like, yes, even though everything's empty, my actions should be super detailed, precise, caring, yeah, and yeah, those things, you know. So, and I think if we look at our Rinpoches, I think I mean, like 90% of the Rinpoches I've met, they are actually doing it so nicely, you know, like they have this great view, you know, they have no preferences, they don't cement their view, how Rinpoche said earlier, or they're not dogmatic, they're open, or as Maya said, you know, they're accepting, flexible. But then when it comes to others, they're super, super customer friendly, you know, super detailed and careful. And so I think that is the beauty, the balance, you know, that we should maybe aspire to. Yeah, Pema Chinde, yeah, you said, I thought this was going to be a talk from Namgyal Dawa Rinpoche. Yes, we are watching this video, but it's also a discussion on the talk. And yeah, anybody else want to say something?
Hearing you talk like that, Arna, it suddenly made me realize like the table in front of me. If I had an atomic microscope and I could see at the atomic level, I definitely wouldn't see a table. But from my human perspective, I can only relate to it as this kind of without the microscope. I can only relate to it as a table. And so sort of that just made me think of that union of the relative and absolute. But our mistake is like all trying to pretend we always carry around this atomic microscope and that we can just always see at that level. And it's, wow, our ignorance is incredible. So thank you for that.
But
I would say we carry it around all the time, but we don't see it.
yeah. Yeah.
This reminds me of that prayer, work as practice from Sotsur Kyinzé Rinpoche. And like I think in that prayer he puts it so clearly, like, like in the dream, there's no one seeing, and there's no eyes and there's no one seeing. But when I'm dreaming, I'm seeing. So then we kind of act accordingly. And so with everything we do, whether, we know ultimately it's all an illusion, we still have to function. And we have to do things well and we have to do our best. And it's not like just giving up. So
Yeah, I also think like a little bit like with the bitch and happy bitch example, like if we say, okay, everything like illusion, as you said, or everything is like a dream, then still we want to help each other that we have good dreams and not nightmares, that kind of idea, yes, on a one level, it's just a dream, just an illusion, and it doesn't really matter. But then on the appearance level, yes, we all prefer a good dream and not a nightmare, whatever that means, Yeah, what I said earlier, we all prefer to be loved and not hated, and hugged and not beaten up, all that, So yeah, the relative matters, but also on another level, not. But that needs to be balanced, yeah. Okay, then we have more. We have, I think, 10 more minutes to watch. Let's continue.
Last breath, So that is one thing. The last important thing I would really mention is that for me now, I've realized I want to approach this differently. Even when I give refuge, I want people to follow the Dharma, to practice the Dharma, not out of fear or out of expectations of rewards, but they do so out of devotion. This is important. Therefore, also when I give refuge, I also give refuge with the understanding that they do not, what do you say, do not embark on this path of refuge with fear. So for me, when I give refuge, in the end, I always tell them commitment is a two-way street. You commit to certain things, and I commit to love and protect you and to guide you to the best of my abilities. If I'm not able to protect you from harm or guide you in a way that you have expected that I should have done, then it becomes my duty that I see that you seek refuge in another teacher, in another lineage, so you feel protected, loved, and guided there. And another way I approach this is, and I always say, I free you from all commitments because I do not want you to have fear of samaya to me. Therefore, I forgive you in advance of whatever you do to break the samaya, whether you do it knowingly or unknowingly, or whatever transgressions that may happen. I don't want you to ever fear that you have the samaya commitment with me. So you're free of that because I forgive you already in advance. So this is how I approach, again, the Dharma differently. This is important. And for people in our position, at least to the whoever I've talked to people in a position of authority, as you know, right now, what is happening, I don't need to mention it. I think it is very important that we enlighten the people to understand and empower them to understand that they must have the courage to speak up to us if they feel that whatever that we do, if it contradicts their understanding of what the Dharma is, and if they feel our actions are contradicting the Dharma, therefore they must have the courage to speak up. They also must understand that when we say love, protect, and guide, that means we should be the ones who should be absolutely careful that we do not be the reason why harm is caused to the students, especially those who've taken refuge with us, in lieu of whatever's happening right now with all of this scandals that are going on. Is we must understand and we must let them know is that no matter what the student does, and I do not care if a woman comes dancing naked in front of me and whatever, if we cross the line, it is our fault. That person is not to blame, because this is the commitment we take, because our commitment to our students is that to protect them from harm. So when we cross that line, it doesn't matter what happens or what has transpired, we must never blame the student, because it is within our responsibility, or it is our responsibility, it is our commitment, especially as people in a position of authority, not to give into that or not to cross that line. So I feel, I don't know how to put it else. I don't know how to put it sensitively or diplomatically, but this is what I feel, is that if in any situation like this, because people always ask me who's at fault, there's only one person at fault if this has happened, and it is the refuge teacher is at fault for having crossed that line, or the refuge master, or the temple, or the Rinpoche, or whoever it is. We are at fault. Even if I cross that line, I'm at fault, because I and all of them must be held to a higher standard than the normal Sangha people. So that's it. Any other questions?
Yeah, you might have understood the context, right? It's about those 6 scandals that are happening, and that was like 1 month after one thing that came out. And so that is, I found it very interesting, how Rinpoche was emphasizing, that, the teachers are there to be they're the protectors, who protect us, and to have more love and compassion, and and not the opposite. Sorry, that when not become somebody to create more suffering, just out of desire, and not really care for the student. So that is, of course, a big topic. I don't know if you want to discuss anything on that. But I personally liked it a lot, how, he's really scolding the teachers in general, Okay. Then let's continue.
A higher standard than the normal Sangha people. So that's it. Any other questions?
Thank you very, very much for this. I'm also very interested in the Tulku thing in general, and about how, a Tulku is feeling the identity of being a Tulku or not. And I read your...
I struggled for so many years with this identity myself. I was told, not to say that I didn't have a connection. Now I realize it was a connection to the past, because sometimes they say, you can remember as a Tuku, you can remember your past lives. Yes, there are dreams that I've had and things like that. But I always rejected this notion that I was the reincarnation of Narong Polong Sangye Rinpoche. I said, Dundum Rinpoche, in his wisdom, made one mistake, and that mistake isn't me, because because I'm not a, I don't think so. I'm a tuku and things like that. But the experiences that I've had, especially with my sisters, parinirvana, my father's parinirvana, that really changed me. And then I began to realize that certain aspects that what I couldn't explain, for instance, 99% of the time I sleep sitting up on a sofa chair, right? And for some reason, it's not that I cannot sleep on the bed. I can sleep on the bed, but time to time I have this feeling of falling sometimes, and then I wake up, and it's very uncomfortable. I don't get a good night's sleep, for instance. So I thought, okay, so that it is what it is. So I for the last almost so many years, 30 years, I've been sleeping on a sofa, like a sofa chair, recliner chair, and things like that. But 5 years ago, it turns out that I was told that somebody was doing a research on all the lineage teachers on the Dharma Dasa, that Holong Sangye, his predecessor, never slept lying down. Even when Dharma Rinpoche, during his last days, and he was sick, and Dharma Rinpoche told him, now it's okay, you must lie down for your, for your health. And he told Dharma Rinpoche, no, this is how I've always slept, and I cannot sleep down. So see, it's a connection like that, cannot explain it. Then a certain dreams like that. Now I know there's a lot of Tiku systems, the talk of Tiku system and things like that. I was one of those people that didn't really subscribe to that view of, but now I'm on the other side. I think because I've experienced it myself. Some of the dreams that I saw, like in my dream, I always, since I was very young, till the age of 13, I always saw this dream where I used to see a deer grazing, and there was a forest, and then I can hear like a water rushing by, a river or a stream, and then there's all rocks everywhere, black rocks everywhere. And then I would stare at the deer, and in a momentary, the deer would look up, stare at me, and my dream would fade after that. Always had that till I was 13, constantly. They say you can't have a dream twice, but this is what I always dreamt. Then after age of 13 onwards, then I had this dream very rarely, like once a year, maybe, or once every 2 years, 3 years, like that. But when I would have it, because of I used to have it constantly as I was a kid, it would always confuse me. Why do I see a deer? What is wrong with this? Then when I went to visit Pemake, I think 2 years ago or last year, I don't remember now, when I went to go, it turns out that that place is in Pemake. I saw the same place, but the only thing I didn't see were the black rocks that I saw everywhere. So I was explaining to Rinpoche and the people there, I said, oh, this is the place, because I could hear the river. And they said there are a lot of deers here. I didn't see a deer, but I said, oh, but the only thing is I saw a lot of rocks, black rocks, but now there are no rocks anywhere. And he said, no, there were a lot of rocks here, black rocks. We just gathered it to build the 4 stupas that you see around, So it's like that kind of connection. And then in Pemake, finally, everything was unfolding in such a way that I was able to, for the first time, really connect with my predecessor and understand this connection. And then the feeling of guilt, because I made the people in Pemake wait 47 years to enter the Dharma. They were waiting for me for 47 years. And then, and at that moment, I was able to connect. So now I changed my view. What I've rejected almost my entire life, now I accept. That's why when I tell people, do not cement your views, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Because if I had cemented my views as well, I would have never accepted this. I would always come from a place of logic, like I need proof. Sure, they show lab. Okay. So that's what it is. So sorry, I have to give an empowerment to a sick person that has come up there.
Yeah.
But all in all, this is this is what it is. So sometimes, like when you all ask me, people want to interview me, I get shocked because I was like, there's nothing I can add to what all wisdom teachers, may have already. You may have more luck with them and resources. So I don't know how I can contribute to things like this, but I hope this helps. And all I can do is, as I told you before, this is what I can do is just speak my truth, be honest as I can, not have any pretense of like I'm a great practitioner, because even I am still at this moment working on myself constantly. People say, oh, you're a Rinpoche, you have the wisdom. I said, no, I don't have the wisdom. I wish I had the wisdom. I said, but I'm working. But is that what you call wisdom? What happened then? Yeah, perhaps then I may have tasted it. Even Dzogchen, when you talk about Dzogchen, sometimes I say, is this what Dzogchen is? Sometimes, you go through certain experience. If you're saying that's Dzogchen, then yes, I tasted it for like 20 seconds. And then I was not able to maintain that awareness. I'm back to square one. But it's like that. So this is what is this? Oh, thank you. So now I'm so sorry. I have to really go because the people are here.
Thank you so much. Okay. That was the conclusion of his advice. Do you want to talk about anything of that last part or whatever he said in the entire thing? By the way, I'm also just posting something in the chat. This is sort of organized by Dzongtse Khyentse Rinpoche Center, what we have here in Berlin. And yeah, if you want to support these kind of activities on the center, there's also a PayPal link if you want. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think, Veronica, you put it so nicely. It's incredibly touching and sincere. Yeah, I feel Rinpoche is so honest here, no? And so, yeah, he really means it and he really wants us to get it, I like that a lot. Mm.
I would also like to mention that, even though this conversation was, when Arnie and I requested him, we also asked if we could share with this group and have a, discussion, an open discussion. And he was yeah, very generous, and he said that we could. So
Yeah, I was surprised actually. Yeah, so that's why we are doing it here. Yeah. Okay, anybody, anything? Yeah, and okay, as I mentioned earlier, like I interviewed many Rinpoches like that. I think like 120 Rinpoches I filmed like that, like giving the hard advice. And I think maybe we couldn't do similar meetings again online, to show these hard advices and then discuss on it. Most of them are shorter, like I think Tsiga Kongto Rinpoche's was only like 1 minute and others like 10 minutes. So yeah, could be nice to watch some of them together. Okay, then thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Of course, thank you, Namgyal Dawa Rinpoche, and thank you, Mariana, to be the precious link. And yeah, again, thank you so much for joining and sharing your thoughts, discussing on these important topics. And I hope you're happy and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good to see you, by the way. Bye-bye.